so it's true that termites have come into Toronto from someplace down in the US and spread like wildfire across the city, and it's not their native habitat. They're invasive in this urban environment. And there's a few characteristics that make them successful as invaders. They spread across whole city blocks. So you got to ask, has this termite done this elsewhere? And it turns out that this species in particular has done so. It's done so in little cities in the Caribbean, but spectacularly, it's done so in Paris, France. And there's a very similar story that's emerging there. So just like in Toronto, termites were introduced into parts of Paris from the same populations in the US. I'm not sure how they got there, but they did. And since then, they've spread all across Paris, and they make these huge colonies, just like in Toronto, that are very difficult to eradicate. So like in Paris and in Toronto, these species are of civic concern, and there's homeowners and politicians that are trying to manage them, get rid of them, I suppose. So why are some species of termites good at invading urban habitats? Well, one thing to consider is that termites are essentially a tropical insect, so they like it hot. And hardly Toronto and Paris are not exactly tropical cities, but still they're big cities with lots of urban heat. That is, people put their heats on in homes and in buildings, and termites can therefore persist in this kind of artificially warm urban environments where they might normally peter out. So that's one thing that they do to keep alive in urban cities. Another thing is that the colonies in urban habitats tend to get really big. And so why is that? Way bigger than they would be in their wild habitat, for example. And one idea has to do with their genetics. It's thought that when you take an individual group of termites, like say just a few hundred or few thousand termites from their native population and displace them into say Toronto or Paris or elsewhere, that they're kind of all related, right? You just took one group and maybe they're all brothers and sisters, so they don't have that much genetic diversity amongst them to distinguish. They think they're all related. And it's true that they all descend from those same individuals, and they're all related, all related, all related. And they never compete with each other because they're all, in the same family. So as a consequence of their invasion of a small genetic group, they're able to spread across not just, backyards, but whole city blocks and mega blocks, and indeed across whole municipalities.